Wow, it's Palm Sunday already. Can you believe that? But I'll tell you what, if you've read that gospel lesson today, there is so much for us to think about, so much for us to take into our heart. But before we begin, I really want to remind you all of something, okay? I really want to remind you of what we think God's will is. Because that's the question that's been coming up to me so much throughout this coronavirus. What is God's will? What is God trying to do? Why does God want so many people to die? Why does God want me to lose my job? People. That's just not true. God's will for us is very simple. God's will for us is to live. To live, not just in this world, but in His world and the world to come. God's will for us is to believe. And it is through that belief and trust in God that we might live with God forever. Eternally. But the world isn't going to like it. And that's what we're finding out, The world, Jesus has promised His followers, you don't really know what you're asking all the time. Because it's hard to follow me. The world is going to hate you and reject you. Oh boy, didn't we just hear those words in the story we read? That the Messiah, the Son of Man, the Son of God, must go into Jerusalem and be rejected. Actually, what it is to be separated from God. Remember when Jesus yelled out, my God, why have you forsaken me? He was pushed away from the source of life. And those are two of the things that I got out of the reading that I'd like to share with you. Number one is when Jesus took Peter and James and John and went up to pray. Well, the three disciples were tired. They were in their flesh. They were not getting what they needed, and they fell asleep while Jesus was praying. Do you remember what Jesus was praying for? Jesus was just like you and me. Jesus was fully human. Jesus is fully human. And He sat there and prayed and said, I am scared. I am so frightened right now. If you would just take this cup from me, I will get up and I will run away. But not my will, your will. Your will for us to believe. Your will for us to live forever with you, my Father. Let that will be done. Well, He repeated it 2 more times, didn't He? And each time Peter and James and John, they just fell asleep because our flesh is pretty weak. But thank God our spirit is willing. Well, that brings us to another point in the readings. Remember when Jesus was brought before Pilate and they had this murderer and the crowd, Pilate had this tradition, or they had this tradition to release a prisoner to the people. Do you remember what the name was? It was Barabbas. Now, very, very simply in the ancient Hebrew, bar, it means son. Just like bat would mean daughter. That's why bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, they're celebrating. But this one was Barabbas, and you've heard Jesus say in the Lord's Prayer, call my Father Abba, intimately. So Barabbas is the Son of God, literally translated. And that's who the people had a choice. They could have the murderer, the flesh. They could have this one that is guilty of all these things, Barabbas the prisoner, or they could have Jesus Barabbas, so to speak. Jesus, Son of God. Well, what did we do as humanity? We took Jesus and we pushed Him away. No, take Him away. Crucify Him. Take Him away. I know what I need, and I don't need Him. Well, it's funny when we have crisis in today's world, we search for the things that we think we need. And I'm not making a joke of this. I watched it. I think it's serious. I have people coming to the church asking for these things. We need toilet paper, and we need this, and we need that. Yeah, I guess we do. But don't we need God first? Isn't God's will for us to place all of our trust, from our head, our brain, our heart, our soul, our mind, our strength in Him first. Because we've talked about this. This world will pass away. This world has been condemned. It isn't the world God is concerned with anymore. He's concerned with us, and He's giving us an opportunity to believe. Because through God's will, if we believe with all of our heart in God, we will live. So Jesus, who I'm going to suggest, had more to fear or to be wary of than anybody in today's world. Got up, brushed himself off, and obeyed his Father, even to the point of death. We're entering Holy Week. I'm going to keep putting out some sermons for you and some thoughts for you, and I believe Chris might even be putting out some more music for you. I hope you're taking advantage of that as well. It's beautiful stuff. But we will have good news. And when I see you again next week or next Sunday, we're going to celebrate. No matter what this world tells us, we are going to celebrate because we know our God lives.